Hey, have you ever worked with a pendulum? So if you're not familiar with a pendulum, and I meant to like kind of put one together, but of course I didn't do that. But a pendulum is basically like a piece of string with something hanging on the bottom. So in contemporary society, a lot of the times you can buy a pendulum and there's a crystal on the end. But it could be a button, it could be anything that will dangle on the end of a string. And pendulums are a tool of divination. But what a pendulum does is it gives you a yes or no answer. So you can ask the pendulum, give me a yes, and it will go like that. And say, give me a no, and it'll make a circle. And so you can tell what the answer is based on the direction and trajectory of the little thing on the end of the string. And so a lot of people will use it like, should I take this supplement? Yes or no? But to me, they are very cumbersome to use because you have to ask a lot of questions to get a very specific answer. So tonight on Thursday Night Live, we're going to be talking about a different tool, and it's an intuitive tool called gauges. So stay tuned, and we're going to dig right into this subject in a second. Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Live. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show tonight. So I wanted to share this story before we go into the exciting world of gauges. So, I feel like everything was like a million years ago, but a million years ago, I was working at a whole life expo in the Seattle area. That's where I was living. And I was having an exceptional show. I was busy the whole time. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go treat myself to something. And there was this guy who had a booth. Like, for some reason, he was always in this booth next to me for years. And I decided I was going to go get a session with him. And so I go, and to make a long story short, he was like, well, I don't really have anything to clear for you, because he did clearing. He used a pendulum and had these charts to find out areas in your life that weren't really working. And then he would clear them. And he was doing his pendulum, and he was like, yeah, I got nothing. Now, I asked him if I could have my $20 back, but he wasn't going for that. And he goes, well, is there anything that you want to know? Or something, I don't remember. But anyway, I said to him, pendulums don't work for me. And he looked at me, he goes, nah, pendulums work for everybody. And so he handed me his pendulum, and he said, show me your yes. And I hold it, and it's doing this. And he goes, show me your no. And it's doing this. And he said, say, my name is Sam. And I said, my name is Sam. And that bad boy just stopped and hung down. So he took the pendulum back, cleared it, did this stuff. We do the exact same thing. He said, my name is Sam. And that bad boy just stopped. So I knew that pendulums just don't work for me. And I know why they don't work for me, because they are so freaking slow to get an answer. So I asked that question a little earlier. People will use a pendulum to say, well, should I take this supplement? And you can suffice it at taking a yes or no answer, but you might want to know, how much benefit am I getting from taking this supplement? So you can go like 0 to 10%, 10 to 20%, 20 to 30%. I don't know. You can break it up into chunks, waiting for a yes answer. And so let's say it's like 40 to 50%, and then you can go 41%, 42%, 43%. Too slow. Don't have the patience for it. Even if a pendulum worked for me, I don't think I would use it, because I don't have the time for it. So tonight we are going to be talking about gauges, because what you can do with a gauge is, instead of just asking a yes or no question, which you can use a gauge for, you can actually get a numeric output in the form usually of a percent. And when you work with and create a gauge, it's in your mind's eye, so it's all in your head. And what you create in your mind's eye can be any style of gauge you want. So it can be like one of those round gauges, pressure gauges that go around. I personally like a speedometer. So if you've ever seen me on the show doing this, that's because I am employing my gauge, because in addition to looking at it, I like to feel where the pressure shifts and where it locks in at. And so if you see me doing this, no, I am using a gauge in that moment. But you can use any style. Again, I like the speedometer style. Personally, mine either goes from 1 to 100 or 1 to 10, kind of depending on the moment. But they're any kind of percent. And so when you work with gauges, kind of like the pendulum, I mean, it's actually the exact same thing as the pendulum. The question needs to be very specific, because a slight different interpretation on the question can give you a very different answer. Now, gauges are really easy to use, so I don't want you to be intimidated, because we're all going to be creating gauges tonight. But it's about the question. So again, a million years ago, I was teaching a psychic development class, and it was like a 6-part series. So one night we discussed gauges. And so what I decided to do, so that they would be overwhelmed with the power of gauges, I took a bunch of index cards, and I put like on each card like 10, 20, 30, 40, or maybe like 20, 40, 60. I didn't want to make a million cards, but I put the numbers on the gauges, and I had one little pack for each person in the class to use. And then each person in the class got to ask a question. So they would ask the question, I would reformat the question into a phrase that would make it work with a gauge. And then they would sit there and look at the cards and hold up what card, they thought the gauge was at. And miraculously, almost everybody in the room on every question had the same answer. I mean, sometimes, someone had like 20 to 40 and someone had 40 to 60, and it was a little bit of difference, and I could see that. Except one time. So a woman asked a question about her relationship, like, is this a good relationship for me? And everybody in the class got like 20%, because my opinion was the guy didn't have good energy, except for one woman. And she held up the 80 card. And so of course I had to call her out, because I wasn't getting 80. And I said, well, do you think that, this relationship is good for her? And she was like, no, but she wants to be in a relationship, and that's what the 80 is. And she did. The woman wanted to be in a relationship, but it's just not that relationship. And so even though they're very similar questions, the questions matter. Okay, so you guys ready? You ready to create your first gauge, intuitive gauge? So please go ahead and close your eyes. I need for you to follow along with me, or else you're just not going to get it. Close your eyes, and we're just going to take a couple of seconds to relax our bodies, relax our mind. And take a nice deep breath and exhale. And another nice deep breath. And just allow anything that you might be thinking about or holding on to or contemplating or worrying about or anything like that to just drop off of you and your body and go down to the center of the planet. So I want you to imagine in your mind's eye that you can see a gauge. I mean, my gauge is usually about like right here, like as if I'm reading a book. It's just right there. And I just want you to imagine this gauge. And again, any kind you want. It could be a scale. It could be that round gauge. Again, I like the speedometer. Doesn't matter. Gauge, mind's eye. And I would like for you, once you have that in your mind's eye, to imagine that there is a little line of energy, like a thread of energy going from the bottom of that gauge all the way down to the center of the planet. And allow that line of energy, that little baby grounding cord, to drain away any of your doubt or fear or any misconceptions about your performance in being able to do this exercise. You know, it's much more impactful when you're doing this in a whole room full of people, but I think you will get the idea. And what I'm conveying to you is that this is a very useful tool that you can use every day if you want to. Okay. And so I would like for you to think about a supplement or a food or a medication, just one. Okay, so not multiple, just one specific thing. You know, so food, medication, supplement, and ask yourself, how much benefit is this giving me? And then again, check in on your meter. You know, if you have a piece of paper there, maybe take a little note, make a mental note, because I'm going to go over what the numbers kind of identify. Okay, so let's try a different, I mean, it was that quick. Here's a different thing. So if you're working on a project, whether it's a home project, a work project, you know, anything that you're putting energy in, how much energy am I putting into this project? And then I'm going to ask a follow-up on that. How much am I benefiting from this project? Because you might be putting a lot of energy in, but you might not be getting the benefit of it. Here's a good one. Where is my anxiety level now? So from 0 to 100, where is my anxiety level now? Okay. Next question. How much resistance am I feeling towards X? So pick an item that you need to do or want to do and ask, how much resistance am I feeling towards it? Okay, so here's the key. So if the number that you're getting on your gauge is less than 50%, okay, well, there's two things. So if, let's say, you ask the question, how much benefit am I getting from this? And the number is 50% or less, you might want to stop and re-examine, is it worth your time and energy or expense in dealing with, in doing that thing? Okay. If it's 60%, usually the person is in agreement. They are thinking about it. but they haven't necessarily taken action. Usually action occurs at 70%. Most people, or it's not healthy to get 100%. 90% is going to leave you exhausted. So taking action at 70% is good, unless you ask the question, where is my anxiety level? And it's at 70% or 80%, then maybe not a good number. Maybe you want it more at 20 or 30%. And if it's at that 70%, you need to take a look at it. The only places where, to me, all right, and these are the ones that I was just thinking of off the top of my head, where you want things actually to be at that 50%. One is in relationships. They say relationships should be 50-50. I don't know that I've ever seen a relationship that was 50-50. Having it be 60-40 is okay. But if you sit there and ask yourself, how much, how much energy am I putting into this relationship? And you get 80%, and that other person is only putting in 20%, then you might want to reevaluate it. So again, relationships, 50-50. That's the golden mean. It doesn't have to be, but if it's really off, like if you're only putting in 10% of your energy, it's like, well, why are you there? Why are you in the relationship in the first place? Unless you're a user, parasite person. And then the only other place is in certain health things, especially when dealing with hormones. And so, like, for example, when I evaluate someone's thyroid hormones, it's like you want it to be at that 50% because that says it's balanced. There's not too much, there's not too little, and so in things that need to be balanced, you want it at that 50%. I guess in the relationships, you want it to be balanced, so you want it at that 50%. So if there's a question you're asking and it's about balance, you want that 50% number. Anyway, so as you can see, just in doing this little exercise, how quick and easy getting the answers on the gauge, using a gauge actually is. And so I hope that you will try using it and working with it as you go through your daily life. I mean, I don't use a gauge every day, but there are a lot of instances where I will use a gauge. I will use a gauge. Okay. So, I don't know. I think we are going to get started with the readings after this word from me.
Exhausted from chasing mystery symptoms, bouncing from doctor to doctor only to be told your labs are perfectly normal, even though you know deep down that something is very wrong. If you feel stuck, drained, and completely ignored by the traditional system, it's time to look deeper. Perhaps it's time you discovered the transformative work of Dr. Rita Louise. As a naturopathic physician and highly gifted medical intuitive, she bridges the gap between science and spirit, offering answers that conventional medicine often misses. So what exactly is a medical intuitive? Think of it as an energetic MRI. Instead of just treating surface symptoms, Dr. Rita tunes directly into your body's unique energy field. She can see where deep blockages, lifelong imbalances, or trapped emotions are creating real physical pain and illness. What makes her truly unique is that she combines this profound intuitive ability with her formal training as a naturopathic physician. She doesn't just sense the problem, she understands the anatomy and physiology behind it. This powerful combination lets her bypass the guesswork and get straight to the root cause. Whether you need a comprehensive medical intuitive reading, spiritual counseling to break toxic patterns, or distance energy healing to clear deep blockages, Dr. Rita delivers the exact missing pieces you've been searching for. True healing is physical, emotional, and energetic. You don't have to navigate this alone in the dark anymore. Stop guessing with your health. Visit soulhealer.com today to schedule your private consultation with Dr. Rita Louise and finally get the answers you deserve.
Well, I have to tell you, I obviously that commercial is new, and that lady must have hands of steel. Did you see? Okay, so if you didn't notice it, well, not next week, no show next week. But if you didn't notice it, did you see all that steam coming out of that coffee pot or that coffee cup, which didn't ever end? That might be getting revisited because it's kind of funky. I thought it came out good, but that was like on a Saturday and I was tired and I put it together. So you'll be seeing something else soon-ish. All right, guys, so we're going to get the party started. And first up, we have Pooja, and she says, "Hi, Dr. Rita, you're doing good. May I have a message number 3, please? Thank you." You sure can. So what do you guys think of that tool? And this is something I hope you will use at some point in time. It really does help you to assess what is actually going on inside of you if you can't really just come up with an answer. It's kind of hard to explain. Okay, Ms. Pooja, that's your card for today. So, Ms. Pooja, I just am sensing some nervousness in your space right now. Was there something going on that you, I'm going to say, avoided, or, it passed you by? So you weren't really affected, but there was like kind of a close call kind of thing. Because that's the sense of the nervous energy I'm sensing around you. I mean, this too shall pass. I feel like this was kind of a one and done situation. So just breathe. Just breathe. All right. And it's ERRT Radio. Happy Thursday, Dr. Rita. Your hair looks amazing as always. May I have a reading number 3, please? Thank you. You sure can. Okay. And that's your card for today. So ERRT Radio, I get the feeling that you are sensing a feeling inside of yourself, but you can't really put your finger on it, like what it is. It just seems heavy and dense. I think the word I want to use in relationship to that vibration is dread. I just get the impression that you're really kind of tired, and have dread. How's that? I don't get the impression that where this is coming from is anything specific going on in your life right now. I feel like it's more of just this feeling that you are picking up. So maybe that's the point that I'm supposed to be sharing, is that it's not coming from your life. It's just you being sensitive to what's going on the planet. And it is Christine. Hello, nice hair today. As always, may I have a reading number 2, please? And thank you. You sure can. I got my hair done and I thought it would look really cute. And Not really. I just am not feeling it. It's not behaving the way I thought. How's that? Oh, Christine. Okay, Amy likes these cards. So Christine got a mask card. Okay, so this is a really good card, but I just wasn't feeling it. I'm going to go with this card here for you. Okay, Christine, and I'm not sure if this is going to make sense to you, but I just am detecting, like, I want to say a heaviness in your heart, but that's really not correct. It almost feels like a hole in your heart. I mean, not literal hole in your heart. You know, and like it's taking you to the depths of despair kind of thing. I feel like you're not really understanding what you're supposed to do to move you and shift you out of this kind of funky energy you're in right now. And what they are sharing with me is that now is the time to nurture yourself, to take care of yourself, to just give yourself the time and energy. You know, not giving it away to other people, but giving it to you instead. All right. And we have Miss Amy. She says, hi, Dr. Rita. Happy Thursday. May I have a number 2, please? Thank you. You sure can, Amy. Amy, you too. You too. Okay, but I'm going to go with that one. So, Amy, I get the impression that you're kind of into like figuring it out stage right now. I get the impression that you are looking at not even your life, but more your energy and trying to understand it better so that you can modify it. I want to say you want to cut parts of it out. I feel like there is some dissatisfaction with feeling like you're kind of blowing around in the wind. I feel like that emotional state, that you're not liking that emotional state anymore, and you're looking to figure out how you can be more consistent every day. I mean, because I'm not feeling like it's necessarily being triggered, but that it is just can get into these states of flux, and you're not digging that anymore. Before, you were very unconscious to it, and so you just kind of flowed and went. Now I feel there's a lot of awareness on it, and that is something that you are working on right now. So even though you got a mask card, that feels very strong and positive for you. Let me know what you think. You know, and like Amy, you know, if you want to, you can go to, oh, shoot. You can, good. You can go to soulhealer.com/live and leave a little something in the tip jar. Don't forget, if we're getting toward the end of the show and you haven't gotten your reading, you can jump the line by going to soulhealer.com/live, or you can ask a specific question, again, by going to soulhealer.com/live and clicking the Ask Dr. Rita link. Okay, let's see. That was Amy. And it's Pearl. Hi, Pearl. And she says, hi, Thursday night, or Dr. Rita, let us see that gorgeous hair. And may I please have a reading with a shuffle of 2? Thanks. Well, 2 is popular tonight. Okay, and Pearl, that's your card for today. Ooh. I got something, I swear. So Pearl, I just get the impression, I think we're on a theme night. I don't know with like the meteor storm and the eclipse and the planetary alignment, like if that like messes all up. Because I'm just feeling like everybody is seeming really kind of stuck. I know I'm feeling really stuck. And, Pearl, and I'm feeling the same thing about you. It's like you see the good and the light over there and you want to go, but it's like, but you don't have any momentum to get there. And it's like, well, I could be going over there, but there's a sofa over there that I could just go lay down on. And it's almost like the sofa is winning in the moment, because there's not a lot of get up and go. So maybe stuck isn't the right word. Just not having a lot of energy in the moment, which is fine. Again, don't know what that whole planetary thing did, how much that affects us or did affect us or whatever. Okay, that's not me. Okay, so let's see. And we have Yvonne. Hey, Yvonne. And she says, good evening, Dr. Rita. Hair amazing. Can I get a reading number 2? Another number 2. All righty. Number 2. Ooh. Okay, it's not that I'm tired, but I kind of had a funky day today. And when I read, it gives me the opportunity to discharge energy. And today was a pretty like stuck energy day. So if I yawn, please just excuse me in advance. Okay, Yvonne, so that's your card for today. So Yvonne, this is really kind of interesting. I get the impression, like you're always going and moving in the forward direction. I feel like your energy today has been more, and I'm going to say reminiscent, where you have been looking kind of in the past or looking back. I feel like it has given you the opportunity to reflect on where you were, and is going to give you the opportunity to use that information to help you move forward. I feel like there's a certain amount of internal emotional cleansing that is happening with this process. I'm going to leave it there. Okay, let's see. Okay. So we just got a little something from Amy in the tip jar. Thank you, Miss Amy. Okay, let's see. Miss Ohura is here. Hey, Ohura. And then ERT Radio says, I have, and I do work with dowsing rods, and I read cards of any kind. Cool. Okay, And so I don't know where this is coming from, but wow, preseason football already. So I dated this guy who liked to bet football, and I would do my voodoo football predictions. And it was all like quadruple blind. And I had like a board, kind of like a gauge, but it was like on a board and there were just numbers on it. And we would take like tiles, I guess. I forget what we used actually. I mean, they weren't mahjong, but they had letters on them. I don't know what happened to those things. Anyway, and so I would get two letters, you know, like E and F. So E would be Minnesota Vikings, and F would be the Dallas Cowboys. But I didn't know that, but they would be competing in the games that weekend. And so I would sit there and come up with what the score was going to be. And then he would ask me a bunch of questions. And I mean, football has a certain level of chance. On some parts of it, I was really good. And then, you know, but then there would be bad referee calls and stuff. And so I don't know, you know, because it's a game of chance. And so it's hard to just sit there and say, this is going to be it. But when I was on, they were really on. Anyway. Okay, Wave Lady's here. She says, good evening, I have a 3 tonight. Dr. Rita, you sure can, Miss Wave Lady. God. Okay, so I'm going to guess that everybody's feeling a little stuck tonight because another one. Okay. All right. And same with you, even though that's a really good card, I am going with this card because it feels more action oriented and more what you need to hear. So Wave Lady, I get the impression that there is a decision that you need to make, although I feel like you've already made the decision. And I just want to validate that decision, and it is time for you to move forward on it. Even if it's just a little bit, but it will kind of lock the energy in place and give you more momentum to take steps toward achieving that goal, getting there, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I feel like there's really good energy lined up behind it to get you there, but you need to get, you know, over the fence and start moving forward. You know, you need to unlock that door to start moving forward. Okay, let's see. No, Horace says, hello, dear Dr. Rita. Good to be in your presence and connected. You look lovely. Cool topic. Thank you very much. I got mixed answers on pendulum. May I have your wisdom revelation on number 2, please? Thank you indeed. I got mixed answers on pendulum. So are you talking about you got mixed answers on the gauge or working with your pendulum? Because like I said, pendulums don't work for me. Okay, and then number 2. All right. Oh, Cora, that's your card for today. Oh. So, Cora, this is just really kind of interesting. I get the impression that you have decided to just surrender. I feel like you have expended so much energy in doing what you do and being who you are, or who you think you should be. That might be a better way of saying it. That I just feel like you are letting down that guard so that you can just be who you want to be and do what you want to do, because that other stuff is just way too much pressure on you. And I feel like you're recognizing that it's not really working for you anyway. So yay. And we have True Colors and some stuff. Hey, True Colors. And Don's here. Hey, Don. Hi, Dr. Rita. I'm late. Could I get a #1 reading? You sure can, Don. Okay. And that's your card for today, Don. So, Don, so I feel like you are just beginning a growth period, a very good and positive growth period. So if your world feels wonky, if you find that you're uncomfortable because what seemed right before doesn't feel right anymore, if you just feel out of place, you know, in a new weird kind of way, like disoriented, it's because you're in this growth period. So I'm very curious where this is going to go and who the Dawn is going to be that comes out the other side. Oh, and growth periods are always good. They're always good and always positive. So yay. All right, and we have Prayer's Edge. Hi, Prayer's Edge. And I'll say she, sorry, says, hi, Dr. Rita, hope you're doing well. May I have a reading #3? Thank you. You sure can. Okay, you and Dawn. All right, let's see Prayer's Edge. So Prayer's Edge, you know, I almost want to say that you're in a growth period too, but I'm going to frame this in a different way. I get the impression that you have spent too much time, and I'm using, that's kind of your words, not mine, too much time kind of going along with the crowd and, you know, being who they want you to be, you know, and just really not paying attention, like just kind of going on autopilot, you know, and if the crowd's going that way, you're going to go that way. And if the crowd is going that way, you're going to go that way. And I feel like that's not really working for you anymore. I feel like you are kind of stepping out of that energy and becoming more, I don't want to say independent, you are becoming more self-aware and becoming more of a conscious chooser in yourself and in the life that you live. Good job. Good job. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Ahura asks, is gauging similar to muscle testing in kinesthesiology? No, because kinesthesiology is like using a pendulum. You can only get a yes or no answer. And muscle testing doesn't work for me either. You know, people can do it on me, but I can't do it on them because it just don't work. You know, so yeah, so pendulum, yes or no answer. Muscle testing, yes or no answer. Gauges, much more multidimensional. And it's Marco. We haven't seen Marco here in a long time. Hey, Marco. Okay. So we have a question from Ohora. She asked Dr. Rita, and the question is it good for me to sign up for a course in NLP, concealing costing $3,000 that I have to pay with a credit card? So, Ohora, I'm going to be very, very, very real with you here. So I think NLP is a very valuable tool for people to have. I was going to do an NLP course, and the course started the same day. I used to run a psychic fair, and it was the same day as the grand opening of my psychic fair. And so, I was getting information, and the woman I was talking to on the phone said, well, I guess your development isn't that important to you. I don't know. She said something to that effect, and it was very manipulative, and it pissed me off because, hello, I've been working on for months to pull this fair off, and it was my grand opening day. And I'm sorry, but I was working on completing a goal that I have been working on for 9 months. And you're going to sit there and berate me because I am not signing up for your expensive course. So obviously I didn't take the course. But I'm going to, let's get Marco off of there. But I'm just going to be very real. So when you do a practice like a medical intuitive or psychic or NLP practitioner, you don't work anywhere. There are companies now that hire health counselor, licensed health counselors. But I think those are all like pretty much commission based as well. But clients are funneled through their company. When you're doing NLP, as my dad would say, you have to go hang a shingle. And so you can spend the $3,000 on the course, but where are you going to get clients? And then I'm going to put a part 2 in there. So if you do anything alternative health and it is not condoned by mainstream medicine and you try to put up a web page, Google will suppress it. And so, I think it would be, if it's for you to take for you, then I think it's great. If it's you to take to create a business, then you really need to look at make a gauge, or let's practice with the gauge. So how much energy am I willing to put into a business to develop customers? What you getting? I'm going to wait a second, and then I'm going to give you my number. So I'm getting 30%. Okay. There really is a thing about creating your own business. There are a lot of people that just want to show up to work every day. And then there are people that have the energy and motivation to sit there and freaking pound pavement and work for a penny an hour because they're driven to it. And that's something I don't want to say don't do it. I will never say don't do it. But that's the piece that you need to look at is, do you have the energy to do the back end work, not just the practitioner work? Because if you don't do the back end work, you just spent that money and you're not going to get your money back. Now, again, if the goal is for you to use it for yourself, go for it. I think it would be great. If the goal is for you to learn it so that you can be an NLP practitioner, I would say that you really need to think about it. Okay. Okay, we're not here. And then ERRT Radio says, my current project is a benefit if I can find an honest contractor to do the job or jobs I need done to get my observatory running. Yeah, I'm in the market for a contractor also. So And the person I keep thinking about calling, I kind of fired, but he does good work. But anyway. And so let's see. Ohora's back. Wow, Dr. Rita, this gaggly, so gauging version that you thought is amazing. Thank you very much. Blessing, love, and cheer to you. Okay, great. Thank you, Ohora. Okay, so I guess we got some spammer people in here. So we have Jimmy Wormwood that I'm not even going to address. I don't even know. Anyway. So Horace said the video is really nice. Just wish she had a few healthy, flourished exotic plants in the background. So obviously, as you can tell, that was an AI generated thing. And that was my first. I mean, I do my Raylan McBride, you know, which was my creation. And to do a person video, and I don't want it to be me, I want it third person. You have to like pick ones that are already created. And so I thought, because this was my first one, that she would kind of move around a little bit more, like there would be a little bit more action. And all she did was hold that steaming hot cup of coffee that never obviously cooled off. So, but thank you, Okora. Thank you, ERRT Radio, about the political commentary. Let's see. Okora said the fruits were nice to be seen in the background, maybe water container. Okay. Jimmy Wormhole. Okay. Hi, Rita, Facebook friend here, reading for ongoing literary project. Cheers. Okay, so where are we time-wise? Okay, so Jimmy, I'm going to give you a second to give me a number. Amy wants Austin Amy wants a reading for Austin, number 1. Okay. Okay, and Austin, that's your card for today. Okay, interesting. So Austin, I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up. I am feeling like your energy is not real grounded right now. And with that, it's making like you not necessarily make real good decisions, that you might, you know, get in an accident because you're not 100% present. I mean, when I'm looking at your energy now, I mean, I've seen your energy before and it has looked way more grounded than I'm seeing it looking right now. And I feel like that's the biggest piece of information I need to give you is what do you need to do to get that energy more grounded? Oh. I mean, I also get the impression that you're kind of like up in flux again, you know, and that might be why you're not so grounded right now. And I feel like making a decision of where you're moving next, and I'm going to leave it said like that, will help you kind of ground things out more. And then Christine says, that makes sense. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, so if somebody wants to ask a question, they need to go to soulhealer.com/live. That's soulhealer.com/live. Okay. And then ERRT Radio says, Dr. Rita, your reading makes sense. Had a bad actor rip me off. An unlicensed wannabe contractor took $1,400 as partial payment and then left the job undone. I had an electrician do that and then wanted more money, $4,000. I took him to small claims court. I went with a 27-page document. I got a $3,000 settlement. Yvonne says the eclipse was rough. Yeah, I didn't really, I wanted to pay attention to it, but I did not. And then Amy says, oh, yes, I am feeling chronologically interrupted and is driving me nuts each day. Thank you for the positive spin on it. Head into the tip jar. Thank you, Miss Amy. Yvonne says, internal, tied to the eclipse, internal emotional cleansing. Yvonne, you know what all I've wanted to do this weekend was lay on the sofa and not do anything. Nothing. Although I did groom Raylan. He looks very handsome. Okay, so Jimmy wants a number 3, and you're getting in just the nick of time. Just the nick of time. Okay, and Jimmy, that is your card. So the words I keep hearing, Jimmy, is I'm free, I'm free. So I don't know what you were doing before, but I feel like that has come to a conclusion and you're very happy it has ended and you are ready for this new adventure. Where that is and where it's going to take you and how that's going to turn out, you don't really know, but you're excited about it because you're not there anymore. So good job. Good job. All right, and I'm just going to scroll through this and then we're going to sign off. And then Pearl says, last week you nailed that I am overworking. I did pull back, but today I am drained and exhausted. I got ready for work and took a nap before leaving my couch. I had daydreams of being on my couch. See, that's all I've done like the last few days. Okay, let's see. All right, so where am I? All right, see, you guys need to like not come in so late. Okay, so I'm going to do you, Dylan, and then we are done. Okay, so actually, which is also my favorite number. Okay, we're not doing a 9. We're going to do a 1 because I only do 1 through 3, so you're only going to get a 1. And then it's time for me to go. Okay, and Dylan, that's your card. So Dylan, this is interesting. I feel like there's somebody around you that needs your support or that you have been helping. I feel like there is like you are being led or directed to do this work. I feel like there is a certain amount of divine inspiration tied to it. I don't know. Our time's up. So I'm just going to say, keep up the good work. How's that? All right. Let's see. All right, God. Hi, Pierre. All right. Anyway, guys, if you came and I didn't get to you for next time, you could always go and jump the line. So when it's getting to be 1:45, and if I haven't gotten to you, that might be something you want to consider for you to get your reading on the same day. Anyway, guys, it's getting late. Actually, it is time. And so I'm going to go. So I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Thursday Night Live. No show next week. So if you come and you don't see a listing, it's because there's no show next week. But so anyway, in 2 weeks, I will see you then. Till then, be blessed.